Welcome back to Beers Up Sports Talk. Sibo in the house, Debo in the house. It's a Victory Monday, folks, as it's been most of the season, which is really weird. I'm not going to lie. As a Bills fan, having all these Victory Mondays really gives me the feels.
I like it.
But I'll take it. I'll take it. Before we get started, though, D, what you drinking?
Well, ran out to Tree House, got us some beers on Tuesday,
Yes.
and I am drinking a super treat from Tree House Brewing, and I am, again, drinking out of the Victory Monday mug.
Nice.
With a nice, great coloring on that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I got Very Green. Yeah, shout out to you for making that trip to Treehouse. We already know.
Well, I'll tell you, that was it was a good trip. It's 40 minutes there. It was about an hour in line, another 40 minutes home with the kids. They took it in stride. We watched some TikTok while waiting for the beers and made it
Did they
happen.
have like an iPad? Could you throw on some shows for them?
We watched TikTok, so we were good.
All right, that works. All right, let's do it. Let's get into it. Packers win, big time Sunday night victory over the Bears.
Yep.
Dominating from the minute the game started.
Yeah.
Give me your recap.
All right, we got 41-25 Packers. 25's a little misleading because they let up those 15
Garbage time.
Absolute garbage time. It was 41-10. Fourth quarter, even if they had their starters in, they were 5, 6, 8, 10 yards off, just making sure they weren't getting beat deep. But this is what the Packers needed on offense. They rushed the ball 37 times. I know game script came into that a little bit in the second half, but even the first half, they were kind of split and they weren't just majority running like majority passing. They've been doing a lot more passing than rushing. Aaron Jones hasn't been really going off, and he only had like 90 yards, but I shouldn't say only because that's pretty good nowadays for a running back. And then Jamal Williams had 76. So the defense, unfortunately, let up 7.4 yards per carry. Granted, that was one really big run of like a 50-yarder.
Right.
That was his career long run, David Montgomery. But after that, they did pretty well. They got 2 more interceptions, both of them out of Darnell Savage. You had the sack fumble for a touchdown. Got to love that. Awesome dance celebration in the end zone. And, I do worry about this run defense with Derrick Henry coming up in a couple of weeks. That's a good 300-yard game for him. But you know what? We may not need that. We'll be locked into the playoffs and probably one more win. And the only thing I have to really complain about is why Rodgers stayed in the game so long. I mean, to me, you're up 41-10 going into the fourth. I don't think you need to keep Rodgers in that game.
And you drafted a rookie quarterback, right? You got that first round future.
Yeah, but he wasn't active. You have Tim Boyle, and I know you're like, what's a Tim Boyle? But
it's a backup quarterback. It is what it is.
Yeah. So I mean, overall happy. Big division win. 8-3, half a game out of first. Out of the 1 seed behind Seattle if they win tonight. Can't complain. Saints, they still got Kansas City, so there's a good chance for Packers getting to that 1 seed. And in not in-game news, we have Packers signing Tavon Austin. Maybe he'll be a return guy, possibly help out in the slot. And then they signed a behemoth, Anthony Rush, off the Bears. They waived him. He's 6'4", 361-pound defensive line. Maybe that helps the run defense a little bit, stuffing up that middle. We'll see what happens. But I'm ready. Next week we get Philly. See what Seattle does to them tonight and learn from there.
Yeah, that should be a win next week.
I mean,
Philly's not great. Yeah,
Packers do some weird things.
Yeah, but Philly's really bad, and they're just Carson Wentz is regressing right in front of our eyes. They can't really do anything. So yeah, I mean it's not. I feel you guys are in good shape.
I do too.
And I mean, I'll say this: garbage time touchdown, David Montgomery. Like, if you're a fantasy owner out there and you started that guy, like, holy cow! Like, literally, like, get your 3-yard pass for a touchdown or whatever it was right before the game's over, and get out of there with your fantasy points. That was incredible.
I mean, that's huge. I mean, we saw that in a couple different games. I know you don't want to talk about it, but I'm sure you will later. More garbage time it wasn't even garbage time because Hopkins caught that crazy ball. At the end of the game, scores can really turn some fantasy games.
Yes, absolutely.
But speaking of DeAndre Hopkins over the Bills, Tell me about your
Yeah,
Bills.
man. Yeah, man. I mean,
Circle those wagons.
they won 27-17 over the Chargers. Um, Coming off the bye, I thought they were going to come out absolutely firing. I thought that they were going to get back to that, like, passing it all around the field, spreading it out. And they came out and they basically decided they were just going to run the ball nonstop. And I found myself looking at the screen saying, why are we running it so much? Even though for the last 10 weeks I've said, can you run the ball a little bit? They must have decided that their game plan was going to be, because Ingram was out and there was a couple other injuries on the Chargers defense, that they were just going to pound the ball. And for the most part, it worked. Allen was all right. Again, I mean, the biggest play we had all game was the pass interference on that first drive, with Diggs right on like the 4-yard line. It was like a 50-yard bomb, and we got the pass interference. It's a huge play. I mean, you want to talk about like kind of gifting the Bills a touchdown. That's exactly what just happened in that moment.
Can I, before you keep going, can I just tell you about that play? Such a great play call. And the announcers were like, oh, that was such an easy throw for Allen. And it looked like he almost overthrew him. And like, I was like, that literally almost didn't happen. Like Knox made a ridiculous catch on an easy, wide open throw.
Yeah. Allen doesn't know how to just toss it in there. Here's the thing. He wasn't great. There were times where this looked like an 8-3 team versus a 3-8 team, and a time when it looked like two teams trying to figure out what they're going to do with themselves. The Bills at times looked like they could do no wrong on offense. Their defense was much better. Tremaine Edwards getting healthy over the bye was huge. They seemed to have figured something out on the defensive end, so I'm happy about that. They had 3 turnovers in 7 plays.
Yep.
They had the Singletary fumble, which sucked because he had just run 2 back-to-back runs for like 15 yards. You had the Allen fumble on the snap, which instead of just falling on it, he tried to pick it up and keep running. And you had the Allen pick, which was just an awful throw. He is never going to stop playing hero ball, and it's going to always terrify the shit out of me. His biggest issue is that he needs to make a play when there is no play. And sometimes it works, but in games like this against the Chargers, where like if you just take what they give you, they could have scored 40 points. Right. But we didn't. We stumbled and we almost let them back into the game. And speaking of DeAndre Hopkins, the Bills let up basically back-to-back Hail Marys.
Yes.
The first one was an offensive PI, which was the right call. The second play was where 4 Buffalo Bills tried to fight over the interception, bobbled it, and it landed in the receiver's hand for the Chargers. And thank God he caught it at the 5 and they tackled him at the 2. And Anthony Lynn's play calling is atrocious, in which they tried to run the ball the next play.
Yes.
Even though the clock was winding down. And then after calling a timeout, they did a play, I don't know if you saw this, where they started in the shotgun and then Hebert ran up real quick, tried to hike it and do a quick QB sneak from the 2 and lost yards. And that was the end of the game.
That's insane. So you text me and you were like, I can't believe it happened again. They let up, just bat the ball down. And I'm like, yeah, but they called offensive PI. And you said, no, that was the play before. Didn't realize it was back-to-back ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, here's the deal. I read a tweet today that Brian Dabble, their offensive coordinator, was asked kind of what their offensive identity is. And he said, basically, it depends on what's working well. They want to be balanced, but if one of them isn't working, they're not going to do that. The run game was working. And so I'm happy they were doing it. But Josh Allen, if we're going to run the ball that much, he needs to be better when it's his turn to show up. Again, one of the touchdown passes we threw was Cole Beasley. It wasn't him. And the one touchdown pass he did throw, he basically overthrew it. Knox had to make a ridiculous catch just to pull that in. He just needs to be better. It's almost like because he wasn't getting enough throws that he was trying to do something huge on every play instead of just taking what was there. But again, a win's a win. They're 8-3. The Dolphins are hot on their tail at 7-4, and the Patriots are 5-6. So this work. I mean, the Bills got to keep winning, and they go to San Fran next week, which we know now is not San Fran. It's Arizona. That's a team they should be able to beat, but I mean, who knows? We'll see.
Yeah. So I got to shout out the Bills. You know, with all this COVID situation, I'm sure we're gonna get into the Broncos situation. I read a tweet where Jake Fromm practices by himself separately. He does his own separate thing. That's so that way, if anything were to happen to Allen and is it Barkley?
Yep.
or Matt Barkley, he's healthy because he's nowhere near them and will never be close contact to either one of them if they test positive.
Kudos to the Bills for that one play. This is just a vent, and then we're going to get to the takeaways. Josh Allen gets hurt yesterday, has to go out for a play. They bring Barkley in. It's like I don't know. I want to say like a second and a whole bunch. No, I think it was a first because there was a penalty. So it's like 1st and 20, 1st and 15. Your backup quarterback's in. It's one play. You run the ball, right? You just run it. No. They drop him back to pass, and he gets absolutely hammered.
Yeah, I saw that. At least
Joey Bosa unblocked. And unblocked Joey Bosa is Matt Barkley's first snap of the year. If I was him, I'd be like, fuck y'all. I'm out of here. I'm done.
I mean,
what are y'all trying to
do? Some kind of draw play to make them think you're passing, but
a screen, a wide receiver, like something that gets the ball out of his hands quick, something that hands it off to the running back, but do not let him drop back and pass. The guy hasn't been in a game all year. Foolish. All right, let's move to the NFL takeaways. There's a lot going on in the NFL right now. We're going to spend some time on it. D, what you got first?
Well, let's just talk about the week that was, I think, before we get into some crazy stuff. What happened to Vegas? Like, I was sitting here last week. I'm like, hey, I can't wait to see Kansas City, Vegas part 3. And now I'm like, why would I want to see that when they get destroyed by the Atlanta Falcons 43-6? They lost 4 fumbles. 3 of them were Carr. He also threw an interception. He had 4 turnovers.
We were just talking last week about how good he is and how the future is bright for them and what a talented guy he's come to be. That was banana land. I figured that game was going to be some 35-35 shootout, and it was going to go down to whoever had the last possession. And I'm watching all day on the ticker, and it's Atlanta. Atlanta's not very good this year. Julio Jones was out.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're turning a little bit of a corner. I mean, their defense is playing a lot better. I mean, probably not good enough to shut down a Vegas team, but something happened where they weren't ready. But Josh Jacobs got hurt. Looks like he might play against the Jets, but he hurt his ankle.
No need to play against the Jets. That's going to be a win anyway. Just take that one off. Let's talk about the Jets. 0-11, and Adam Gase is the play caller. He isn't the play caller. He gives suggestions or he takes suggestions. Now it's a group effort. The hell is going on? Shout out to the New York Jets for keeping him as the coach because it makes my life better. But what are we talking about here?
So, I mean, I don't know if you heard, he wants to keep the competitive advantage. And and someone tweeted, I got to start writing these names of these tweeters down because this is fantastic. He's like, yeah, so imagine if the play caller, the people knew who was play calling all year and they could take away all the wins because of competitive disadvantage, but they're 0-11.
Yeah.
I mean, the Jets for a while there, they looked decent. They were staying with them, and then Miami found a way to. Fitzpatrick didn't play his best game of the season, which you're not going to be surprised by because I know you're not a Fitzmagic a fan, but I mean the Jets have a better chance of winning with Flacco, which I can't believe I'm saying.
The crazy thing about, again, 1, I feel bad for Sam Darnold. 2, that Jets defense is so bad. 3, the Dolphins are sticking with Tua as long as he's healthy. It's crazy to me. I don't want to call this a quarterback controversy, but if you're the Dolphins and you're 7-4, you saying that he's your go-to guy, I don't know. It's just wild. It's wild. I can't believe they're 7-4. Flores seems to have figured something out there. Their defense is good. They've got some weapons on offense, even though they don't have they keep, losing running backs like they're the 49ers. I don't know. Good on them for getting the win. What do you got for me next?
So I have 3 teams that are outside looking in right now that could be scary.
Mm-hmm.
But with news that came out, it's probably only 2 teams. So you got the New England Patriots are only 2 games back of the final wild card spot. The San Francisco 49ers are only 1 game back of the wild card spot. And I know we've talked about how they haven't been great, but they just activated 6 people off IR this week. Sherman came back, interception first game back. Mostert's back. If Mullins plays okay and Garoppolo can come back, this team is not an easy out if they get to the playoffs. The defense is pretty good. I mean, that's a scary team. I wouldn't want to see them again after the Packers did what they did to them. And then New England, I know it's Cam. It's not they're not the Patriots of old, but man, they're 2 back, and just putting Belichick in the playoffs is scary. It's got to be scary to a team. Just the mystique of the Patriots. I mean, they played they played the Chiefs so good with not even Cam in that game, if I remember correctly. Like that was they had a shot.
Yeah, I don't fear the Patriots. I get that they're a couple games back. You need a quarterback in the playoffs. I know. Cam Newton is not good.
If he didn't fumble that ball, you lost to the Patriots or at least went into overtime. The Bills would have lost.
Sure. Also, the Bills had a chance to blow that team out. So if we're playing what ifs, right? Like the Bills could have blown them out. I'm not feeling really good about Cam Newton having to throw the ball in some cold weather. Again, they're going to run the ball a lot. Their defense is going to be solid. I'm just not that. And that's the same with the Niners. Like if it's Garoppolo, maybe I feel a little bit better. But like if it's Mullins, like I'm sorry, I watched that Green Bay game. You put pressure on Mullins, he's not making plays. And I know that like Mossert's back, but like I'm just going to pack 8 in the box and make you throw the ball.
They didn't have Ayuk. They didn't have Samuel.
I get it. But even if you have those guys, Mullins has got to make plays. Cam Newton's got to make plays. In the playoffs, you've got to make plays. And
so
I don't know.
Before the news, so let's talk about Will Fuller.
Yeah, let's do that.
And the reason I'm saying that is because I originally had Houston on this list because Watson is playing out of his mind right now. Because
Watson always plays out like this is banana land. This guy is so ridiculously good.
Give me a sec.
Crazy.
Bill O'Brien was just let's run the ball. He was such he wanted to just run it all the time, and he never gave Watson the freedom that he has now.
Not until they were down by like 20 points, and then he'd be like, okay, I guess you got to throw the ball.
And ever since he's been gone, it's just, he's there. So so let's talk about Will Fuller. What happened?
6 games suspended. Let me see here. He said he thought he was prescribed a medication that was okay, but then it wasn't. Let's see. Let me just see it right here. Because when I saw that, I was like, come on. So it's PEDs.
Yep.
I sought treatment from a medical professional who prescribed medication that he believed to be permitted under the NFL's drug policy. It turns out you screwed up, Will. That's dumb. Dumb.
So the best part of this news is the Packers didn't trade for him and waste that.
Well, right. But like, also Will Fuller, I mean, he's got to be coming up on a contract soon. Like,
no, this is it. That's why the Packers didn't want to do a 2nd round pick.
Right. So like
unrestricted free agent. So like he's now going to lose 5 games. If they don't make the playoffs, he's got to serve a 1-game suspension next year on his,
for whoever he signs with, right? Or if he's
and PEDs, maybe you're not getting as much money as you were going to before.
And bro, he just went off.
Yep.
He just went off.
Yep.
And that hurts my fantasy football teams, if I'm being honest. Speaking of going off, let's just have a moment for Tyreek Hill. In that first quarter, 203 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, sometimes you watch Kansas City and you're like, are they playing like just like flag football? but then they I feel like they didn't score. They barely scored in the second half.
Yeah, that was a little.
It's almost like Andy Reid's like, all right, we got the lead. Let's not give it away. Like let's not give away the plays that we got in our back pocket. Let's just see if we can hold on to it. And I don't know if that's true, but it's crazy. Like if you just put up all those yards and all those points in the first half, and I know that Tampa Bay made some adjustments, but like still, they could have scored 100 points. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean that was insane. And then,
All right. Oh, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say I was surprised how bad Tampa played, and I don't even mean on defense. Just to start the game on offense, it was, we always talk about Kansas City's defense being good when they're up, but the first couple drives, if you're still in the first quarter of the game, but Tampa was really terrible. I mean, you tweeted me with how bad Brady has been with the long ball, and he's got Evans, he's got Godwin, he's now got Antonio Brown. But this team has struggled.
Gronk was their leading guy yesterday too, right? He had over 100 yards receiving.
Yep, and this team offense has struggled since Antonio Brown has showed up.
Too many cooks in the kitchen, man.
I think so, and I don't think anyone's dogging it, but like I could see getting frustrated if.
No, but it's true. I mean, you just listed 4 guys, plus you're going to throw the ball to the back out of the back. You got 4, 5, 6 guys that can catch the ball. I know there's this idea of spreading it around and finding guys that are open. And we talk a lot about how Aaron Rodgers is so good at that. But, like, these aren't guys that are expecting to get 6, 7 receptions on the Packers. Everybody on that Bucks team is looking to get theirs, right? Godwin's good enough to get 8 receptions a game. Evans is good enough. Brown's good enough. Gronk is good enough. And then you're going to end up throwing it to the back a few times.
Yeah,
like,
and then you got
and the back
Miller.
Right. And so at some point, and again, Brady's already probably figured out who he's going to throw to it before he even gets the ball in his hands because he's reading the defense. So, like, I don't know. There's something going on there. The Bucks are going to be that team that gets into the playoffs, and they're probably going to be like the 4 seed, and the number 1 team is going to be like, shit, now we got to play these guys because they're probably going to put up about 60 on us.
Yeah. Well, that's when that's when you hope it's at Lambeau in the snow and Brady just is cold, even though he's used to it. But now he's down in Tampa.
Right. I want to say something. First of all, I want to shout out Alex Smith because the Washington football team had an awesome win on Thursday.
Oh,
absolutely dominated. And his comeback story is incredible. I know we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. But is this guy the future of the Washington football team? I know he said he wants to be there. I mean, or does he want to be there and be part of a rebuilding project, or does he want to go somewhere else? I mean, he's showing that he can play the quarterback position again. There's probably some teams out there that wouldn't mind to have him under center.
But so think of this division. How much of a rebuilding process is it? They got their running back, they got their receiver. Their line's getting better as the season goes. They're deep. They got Chase Young. There's some other key players. Like, they're not that far from being a contender in a legit East. I don't mean this year, but I was just like, so I don't know if you saw me pick up my phone. I'm like, let me look to see what their schedule is, because I'm pretty much gonna now guarantee they're winning the division. And then I see then they go Steelers, Niners, Seahawks the next 3 games. I mean, there's a good chance they go 0-3, and they're sitting at 4-10 instead of.
And don't get me wrong, I don't know where he goes, but like, I mean,
if
he looks pretty good in a Patriots uniform, no?
But I mean,
like, I feel like Josh McDaniels would love to have that guy in the center.
Now, are you saying he's a free agent? Is that why you're?
Yeah, I think this is the last year of his deal. So, I mean, it's not that I don't think he's great for that team, and I'm sure Ron Rivera is going to do everything to bring him back. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Off the top of my head, I don't know how many places are available. But like, if the Bears are looking for somebody, they're not a bad team.
No.
Right. Patriots, I already mentioned.
Eagles.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, no, it's not a good. I mean, again, this guy is going to probably get a nice fat contract, even though he only played half a season, because he's good enough to play the position, and I don't know. He can sling it.
You could probably get 3 more good years out of him, and then worry about bringing in another quarterback, or you can still then bring along Dwayne Haskins. So there's opportunity.
I think Dwayne is done. I think he's done. I want him to be there, but I think he's done.
No doubt.
All right, let's turn to the COVID situation in the NFL. I want to have just a moment, if I may, to just talk about the NFL and the double standard that is happening this season. They boned the Denver Broncos. And I know the Broncos screwed up.
Yep.
They broke protocol. They, for lack of a better term, they lied, right?
Yep.
But to make them play without a quarterback and to see what's happening now with the Ravens and how they've now pushed a game that was supposed to be last Thursday to Wednesday, where it just so happens that their number one and number two running backs will be available. Dobbins and Ingram will be available because they'll clear Tuesday, is just bananas.
Did they?
Because
did Dobbins and Ingram have no symptoms?
As long as they have like the test, so basically they're probably going to be available.
Yeah.
And so what you're basically saying, I mean, we talked about this with the Niners game a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
The Broncos game, I mean, to me, it's just the NFL has no specific strategy for when this happens. If you're going to make the teams play the games, make them play the game. Make the Ravens play. Move it to Sunday, and they got to play with RG3 and Gus Edwards and all their practice guys on defense because everybody got tested positive. They screwed up. It's like what is blowing my mind is that you force these teams to play, the Niners and the Broncos.
Yep.
At half staff. But then you say to the Ravens, we're going to give you a whole fucking week, to figure it out. Get all your and by the way, people were still testing positive yesterday.
Yes.
Mark Andrews still tested positive, and they're going to still be without guys on Wednesday. But this is crazy.
No, I'm with you here. I mean, we talked about it. It was a disservice to the 49ers and fans. It was a disservice to Broncos and football fans. I mean, I get it. You want to punish them for breaking protocol, but absolutely
punish the Ravens. They went back to the practice facility, even though they weren't supposed to be there, but they were outside the facility. Like this is crazy to me. Like you're basically saying to everybody who's looking at the outside, we don't really have a plan, but when we feel a certain way about something, we're going to just push the game off a little bit. But when it comes to the Broncos and the Niners, y'all just going to have to play. Y'all just going to have to figure it out.
And what's crazy is the Steelers have been getting the shit end of the stick on a couple because they had it with the Titans. Yeah, they're getting it with the Ravens. Like where the Titans are getting healthy, and then the Ravens now. I mean, again, Lamar Jackson is not playing. That's almost certain that he's not. He's going to be available.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Andrews is going to be available, and I think like a bunch of their defensive players won't be available. With that being said, they still they're going to get. They might get some running backs back. It's absolutely insane that the Steelers, the Titans, they beat the Bills, and they had because they had the chance to get healthy. So I guess you pick and choose who you want going, and that's what the NFL is doing. And
we're seeing positive tests everywhere. It's not getting better. It's clear that there's an issue. I mean, Saints just got fined more. They just lost draft picks.
Yep.
Like the NFL's plan for this was to hope that teams would abide by the rules. What we know is that NFL teams push the limits of rules year in and year out across the board because they're trying to find an edge.
Yep.
And because of that, now we're dealing with people's health. And again, I don't want any of these people to get sick. I don't want any people to get really sick. God forbid they die. I obviously, I want them all to get healthy, and hopefully they will. But clearly what's happening in Baltimore, everybody got sick. Everybody got sick. They couldn't even play a game. And you know what they should have said? Sorry, guys, figure it out. Sunday we're playing. Sunday at 1 o'clock we're playing. And if I'm the Steelers, I'm pissed because I'm like, listen, we're following the rules and you just keep pushing us along.
Yep.
Dragging us through this. Now, Sunday, you play Wednesday and you got to play Sunday?
No, they got moved. But
even still, you're basically telling one side of this, the Steelers, we're gonna screw with your entire plan, your entire structure, your entire schedule because we want to give the Ravens a chance to get their running backs healthy.
Yeah, so the Steelers moved to Monday and the Ravens get to play Tuesday.
My favorite part is that Ravens Steelers will be at 3:45.
I do love that. I was already saying like, I'm done working at 3:45.
Well, because NBC won't let them play over the tree lighting ceremony in New York City.
Man, nice.
They basically said, "Sorry, y'all." At this point, it is. They should black out that game. Nobody should win in that game. They should give the Steelers a win and make the. It's just crazy. Banana land. And here's the deal, like it as we were talking before we got on, like COVID cases are growing, hospitalizations are growing, deaths are growing. These folks have access to all of the stuff. They have access to daily testing. They've access to the best medicine. When they get sick, they're going to be treated right away, right?
Yep.
There's folks that don't get that. But because they're NFL players, because they're providing this entertainment, because they get paid a lot of money, they get to basically do what they want. The Ravens basically just a big FU to the city of Baltimore, to the NFL, to everybody. We're just going to do what we want. Like, and again, the Broncos screwed up. They screwed up. I mean, Drew Lock had to come out and make a statement. I haven't seen any Ravens make a statement. Nobody's saying, my bad, I went out to the club Saturday night. But Drew Lock had to make a statement because he didn't wear a mask. Freaking banana land. All right, let's move to the last call. What do you got for me, D? Give me something.
I got something fun.
All right. Because I don't have something fun, but you go.
All right. I mean, it's not really overly fun, but I got my Atlanta Braves out here making some off-season moves early in the off-season. I don't want to say shored up, but we have strengthened our starting rotation with
yes, sir.
Left-handed pitcher Drew Smiley to a 1-year, $11 million contract, and Game 7 of the ALCS winner Charlie Morton to a 1-year, $15 million.
That's big time right there.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. You add them to Max Fried and Ian Anderson, and hopefully a healthy Matt Soroka. And they got a pretty formidable rotation. You know, the one spot I was like, they're not really that great at. But, you know, it's kind of getting me excited for baseball. Let's get spring training here. But before we do that, let's get Marcell Ozuna re-signed.
He ain't getting re-signed, Doc.
I know he's not, but they need they had Donaldson blow up for him. They had Ozuna, who's going to be filling. But yeah, I'm looking for it. I'm ready for spring training. Haven't said that in a while.
That was one of the things I was going to talk about today if we got to baseball, was the idea that the offseason has moved really, really slowly. There's this I mean, I didn't even realize that George Springer was a free agent. I was like, oh my goodness. And the reality is it just sounds like the teams are slow playing it. They've got 3 or 4 months until spring training. But like, this is usually the time where I'm like staring at my phone day in and day out, waiting for these trades to happen. But
winter meetings are coming up, so might see some trade. Yep. You know, I think, you know, if they can't re-sign Ozuna, they're gonna have the Braves are gonna have to get another bat to replace that, because he was awesome last year. So.
Yeah. All right. I got to talk a little bit about what's happening in college sports, and this how COVID has changed the landscape of scheduling games, where you've got coaches tweeting out to other coaches,
yes, and
saying, I got a game, I got a date, anybody want to play? I thought we were doing bubbles, but apparently Rick Pitino over the weekend texted his buddy and said, don't go to that bubble, come play me. Why is it that college sports has turned into like coaches and athletic directors like texting and tweeting their friends and saying, hey, does anybody want to play? We couldn't have figured this out. We couldn't have said like, hey, keep our players in a bubble. Let's not let them go out anywhere. I mean, I just read, was it like UTEP or Texas? That's UTEP. Like some of the guys took a bus home and got COVID instead of flying home with their team. What is happening? Like what is really happening in college sports right now? Like just stick these guys in a hotel room. Don't let them leave. put them in suits, bring them to the court or to the football stadium and let them play the game. This is, I can't wrap my head around. This is crazy.
So like the Mohegan bubble was very lackluster.
They're all lackluster. None of it makes sense.
Like the 4 teams in UMass's bracket all didn't play because they all had, like, UMass has been shut down. They're going to be able, I think they have like 5 days left until their quarantine's over, and they just announced that they're hosting someone. But I saw the women's UMass basketball coach tweeted out like, "Hey, anyone want to play us on this date because we have an opening." That's the yes. Like did you hear about this whole Rick Pitino thing over the weekend? No, I didn't.
Basically, there was it's like St. Joe's and somebody else. And one of them was supposed to go to the Mohegan bubble. And Rick Pitino was like, don't go to the Mohegan bubble, play Iona. And of course, you're going to go play Iona because it's Rick Pitino and it's worth your time. And so they were like, we're not going to the bubble. We're going to go play Rick Pitino. Like, can we just – I made a note here before this podcast. Where are the bubbles? Clearly the NBA worked. The MLS worked. The bubbles work. Stick these kids, like take 32 teams down to Orlando right now, bubble them up, and let's play some college basketball.
Yeah, especially now that they're out of school, right?
Bring the tutors and let's go. All the work's going to be done online anyway. What are we talking about? This is bonkers. So, and here's the thing, like, I'm saying this from a sports fan where I just want to watch sports. And the problem is folks are going to keep getting sick. And I hate to say this, but like somebody's going to die and then they're going to have to deal with that.
Yeah.
We've been lucky so far.
Listen, this is nothing. Well, I mean, it has a little to do with COVID, but we were talking about college sports. UMass football. 0-4.
It's not tough.
No, come on, real quick. 41-0. Not a win. 51-10. 24-2. And they lost to Liberty 45-0.
Well, don't get me started on Liberty. That's neither here nor there. UMass football.
Like, so do you think they made enough money to A, put these players at risk, B, embarrass themselves that much? Like, the answer is probably,
but the bigger issue is that they shouldn't be Division I football team.
They should be double 1A or whatever it's called.
Tell me in New England what teams have succeeded at the Division I football level.
UConn for a year.
BC up and down here and there. Yeah. Matt Ryan, Doug Flutie for BC. That's it.
Pretty much.
New England can't survive college football Division I sports because there aren't good athletes, good football athletes here, and you can't recruit people to come here.
Right.
It's just it's impossible.
Yep.
It's impossible. And any good athlete in this area is gonna, if they're good enough, is gonna go to an Ivy League school. Because I'd much rather go to an Ivy League school than go to UMass.
No doubt.
Because football is going to stink anyway, so I might as well get an education.
Word up.
All right, y'all. That's it for this one. This is like the NFL COVID edition. God damn it. We'll see y'all next time. We're going to be back and better than ever soon. More than once a week. We got y'all, but until then, y'all be good.
Peace.